We are here to settle the age-old political debate: should you keep up with politics? In this video, I'm going to discuss the pros of keeping up with politics, the cons, what I personally decided to do, and how that's been working out for me. Let's start with the pros. Why would you want to consume politics? Why would you want to consume the news, the media, to get your fix of politics in? The biggest reason that I always hear is to keep up with the current affairs, keep up with what is going on with the world. I would slightly reframe that to keeping up with what is valued in the world, because at the end of the day, what people care about is what you're going to hear about. So it's really what is valued in the world today. You're going to be able to keep up with all of that. So you're going to know what is going on in the world of politics all the time if you're someone who keeps up with politics. So that is useful if you want to know what is going on in the world, if you want to understand what's happening. It will help you do that. The second thing it's great for is complaining with other people. It is very, very beneficial. If you like complaining, you like whinging about things with other people, then politics is really fantastic for that, because usually in politics you can find a common enemy. There's someone in particular I'm thinking about that I won't mention, but that seems to be a great topic of conversation. People love complaining about this person all the time, and it really brings people together. So if you're someone who likes complaining about things going on in the world, whether that's certain politicians, whether that's the state of the economy, anything like that, it's fantastic. It always gives you a topic of conversation to complain with other people about, especially considering the fact that there's a huge negative bias in politics where the majority of what's spoken about is negative things, bad things going on in the world, which makes sense because it's all people are really interested in anyway. So it's very, very good if you want to complain about things with other people. Of course, the caveat to this is it only works if they agree with you. If they disagree with you about the thing that you're complaining about, then they'll probably hate you, but if they agree, you're going to get along pretty well. Third thing is it makes you appear more intelligent. If you're in a conversation with someone and you're talking about your informed opinions about the state of the world, the economies around the world, the politicians, then you may seem very intelligent. Of course, if that person doesn't agree with you, they're probably going to hate you and think you're an idiot. But if they agree with you, or if you have some sort of nuanced opinion, you may come across as more intelligent. Number 4, if your job specifically requires you to understand what is going on in the world of politics all the time, then you should probably keep up with politics. This is generally for things like journalism, or if you're in politics itself, it's probably going to be useful to know what's going on. Right, that's all the pros. Now, what are the cons? What are the cons of staying tuned in to politics, to current affairs all the time? First of all is anxiety. Your anxiety is probably going to go absolutely through the roof. There's 2 reasons for why your anxiety is going to increase significantly. First of all, as I mentioned earlier, there's an extreme negative bias when it comes to media. So when you're consuming politics, current affairs, the news, you're not hearing the good things. You're hearing about people dying. You're hearing about scandals. You're hearing about wars. You're hearing about assassination attempts and murders. You're hearing about genocide. You're hearing about lots of bad things generally related to people dying or something bad going on in the economy. So if you're exposing yourself to a huge amount of negative information, probably not going to be good for your mental state, probably going to increase anxiety. Second factor contributing to increased anxiety is that you're consuming all this negative information, all these problems and all these issues, but you can't resolve them, you can't fix them because they're all outside of your control. You have zero control over any of them whatsoever. I live in Australia. I don't like who's in power in the US. I can't fix it, I can't control it. I don't like the way the economy is going over there. I can't fix it, I can't control it. I don't like the politicians in Australia. I have one vote that's probably not going to make any difference at all. I can't fix that either. The Australian economy can't resolve that problem either. Wars going on the other side of the world, big problem, can't fix it. Can't resolve that issue whatsoever. That's a whole lot of things that I'm really worried about that I can't change, that I can't control whatsoever. And that is going to crank up the anxiety big time. Second con here is that you're brainwashing yourself. Unless you're someone who's picking a different news source each day and making sure you have a perfect split of left wing and right wing and in the middle, you're definitely brainwashing yourself, because no one's doing that. Everyone has a slight bias, and because of the nature of the internet, you keep receiving more information to confirm your current biases and push you down a certain way of thinking. Why is it that there's only two opinions in the world? There's millions of different things that you could have opinions about, but everyone either has the exact same opinion or the exact opposite opinion. There's only two opinions in the world. They could be completely contradictory things that you believe, but it doesn't matter because this side believes all that and this side believes all that. So if you're someone who consumes a lot of politics and current affairs, you're gonna drift to one way or the other and you're gonna end up thinking like everyone else, which essentially means you've just brainwashed yourself, which also means that you're not really thinking independently whatsoever. You don't have your own opinions, you just have other people's opinions. So definitely a big con is that you're probably going to brainwash yourself if you're consuming a bunch of politics. Third con here is that people are going to hate you for your opinions. In fact, half the world is going to hate you for your opinions. And guess what? You're also going to hate half the world for their opinions. Probably not a good idea to reduce the amount of people that you can potentially get along with in half just by holding opinions that you haven't even come up with yourself. Number 4 is lost time. If you're consuming a bunch of politics, it also means you're spending a bunch of time consuming politics. If you're someone who says, I wish I could do this, but I just don't have time to do it, there's your time. If you think, I would love to get in great shape, but I just don't have time to exercise, there's probably a few hours a week that you have that you could probably reallocate from politics into working out and might help you get in better shape. There's a whole bunch of time that you're probably burying into politics that if you don't really need it can probably be allocated in a better way. All right, so those are the pros, those are the cons. Let's discuss when does it make sense to actually consume a bunch of politics. I think there's two situations where it genuinely makes sense to consume a bunch of politics. First of all, if your job requires you to consume politics. If you're a journalist, if you're in politics, you probably need to consume politics and current affairs. So yeah, that makes sense. Number 2, if you want to find a community of ideologically brainwashed people, if you want to join a cult movement, great idea to consume a bunch of politics. If you're someone who wants to fit in with a big crowd of people that all think the same way, so if you want to find a community of people that all think the exact same thing, then politics is a pretty damn good thing for that as well. So what is my decision? What was the conclusion that I came to for myself when it came to consuming politics? I used to be someone that consumed multiple hours per day at my peak. So I've consumed a lot of politics in the past. I've seen what that did to my life. And more recently, I've lived without politics completely and seen what that's done to my life. In this entire 9 months, I haven't intentionally consumed a single piece of political content. And I personally think it is the best political decision that I've ever made. The 5 big benefits I found from this: first of all, I start actually thinking rationally and independently, rather than thinking, okay, how does Ben Shapiro think about this? Or, okay, how does CNN think about this? I just think, okay, logically, based on my beliefs, what do I believe about this thing? I start actually formulating my own opinions and beliefs. And what happened is that I started going a little bit more towards the center. I started actually having opinions on this side and having opinions on this side rather than all on one side or all on the other. It definitely removed a lot of my biases when it comes to thinking, because at the end of the day, I wasn't consuming bipartisan content. I was probably consuming content that was all on one side, and it just completely brainwashed me. So definitely allowed me to think more rationally. Second thing is it saved a huge amount of time. The amount of time I got back is crazy. I mean, if you're getting 2 hours back a day, even if you're getting 1 hour back a day, you're looking at about 500 hours over the course of the year. One of the projects I'm doing right now is I'm trying to become fluent in Spanish. It requires 1,000 hours of input. So that basically means if you're replacing politics, consuming politics with speaking Spanish, in 2 years you're fluent in a new language. I think that's probably a far more valuable skill to have than to know what's going on in the world of politics and have everything that comes along with consuming a bunch of politics. Number 3 is I was a less anxious person. I wasn't always concerned about what was going on in the world, what was going on overseas, this and that. All of these negative things that I thought were happening in the world and I was really anxious and concerned about, when I stopped paying attention to them, when I didn't even realize they were going on, when I was completely oblivious to them, what happened is I noticed the world is a whole lot better than we actually think. The world keeps getting better every single year, but all we see is the negative headlines and negative things that are going on. So we think that the world's getting worse. We think that it's deteriorating. The world sucks. The world was better 10 years ago. The reality is when you don't consume politics, what you realize is, wow, There are so many aspects of my life that are so much better than they were a few years ago because of how we've progressed. And I wouldn't know about any of that, or I wouldn't be thinking about any of that if I'd been consuming a bunch of politics, because all I would be thinking about is all the negative stuff, all the bad stuff that's going on in the world. Fourth thing is I have better relationships now because I've stopped consuming politics. There's a lot of people that I just couldn't get along with because I don't agree with their politics. I had completely opposite politics to them. It made it very hard for me to have conversations with them without subconsciously sort of disliking them. And I'm sure them the same way for me. Now, it's definitely improved a lot of my relationships when I come up with conclusions that are actually my own, how I truly believe, rather than the opinions that were brainwashed and forced upon me. These people that I found obnoxious or just annoying, frustrating to talk to, I now just really like talking to. They're just more fun to be around. I'm sure I'm better to be around because I'm not more obnoxious and annoying. Overall, just been very, very good when it comes to relationships. The fifth thing is that it's just allowed me to reallocate so much attention into what is within my control. And I think this is one of the big things that's allowed me to make a lot of personal growth progress really quickly, is that I've allocated nearly 100% of my attention to what's inside my control. What can I change? And now I just put all the action to actually changing those things. If I have a lot of my attention allocated to things outside of my control, there's no action I can take. There's no way I can influence these factors. Whereas if all of my attention is within my control, then I can change it. I can actually influence my world. And the more I've been able to allocate my attention to what is in my control, the more I've been able to change my world for the better. This is just a decision that I came to. Personally, I think this has been an absolute game changer for me. This is going to depend on your personal situation, but for me, getting rid of politics completely, just consuming none of it, has been absolutely amazing. If you guys are interested in getting politics out of your life, not just politics, but any form of online entertainment without requiring any willpower whatsoever, then I show you how to do all of that in my free community. I'll leave a link in the description below for that. If you liked the video, if you found something interesting, then like, subscribe to the YouTube channel. There's probably a video somewhere around here that you might be interested in, so I will see you in one of those.